Okay, in today's video I'm going to walk through a quick run through how to create a front porch structure. That's going to be a masonry front porch. So we'll have a footer, we'll have a foundation wall, and then a 4-inch concrete slab that will sit on top of our masonry work for our front porch. So I'm going to go right ahead first off and get started out with my footer. And I'm going to use the same depth footer as my fireplace because that's low enough for the frost line. So I'm going to go right ahead over to my front porch, or I should say fireplace, bottom of foundation wall. And I'm going to go ahead and rough in what would be my foundation wall. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my wall tool. And I'm going to come over to this side, and I'm actually going to find my same foundation wall that I use for the house, which is going to be my just my standard CMU. And I believe I'm going to come into here and take a look to make sure that that is an 8-inch CMU block. Yep, concrete masonry unit block wall. So I have that. And I'm going to start. So it's going to start at the level of base constraints. Going to be fireplace, bottom of foundation wall, and it's going to go all the way up to the top of the foundation wall. Unlike the garage, I do not need to have any type of step back lip. The concrete porch is going to sit directly on top of the foundation wall. So right now I'm just going to go ahead and sort of start roughing out some space here. I'm not really totally concerned with size at this point. What I'm really just going to want to do is make sure that this is going to be centered on the front porch. And it's going to approximately be at least 8 feet wide coming away from the house, and at least 8 feet wide across the front. So right now I'm at 7'10", and I'm coming across 11'8". Not really so sure where I am centered on the front of the house, but I'll work that out here in a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead again, put a dimension to the front here, 7'10". So I'm going to go ahead and grab this front wall. I want this to be a minimum of 8. So I'll just go ahead and set that at 8. And you see I'm just sort of roughing these in. And at this point, since this is close to 12, I'm going to go ahead and just select this 11'10". I'm going to make this a 12-foot porch. Whoops, that was 12 inches. How about we do 12 feet? That's better. All right. So now I just want to make sure it's going to be centered on my front porch. So I got it set right now 12 feet wide, 8 feet away from the house. I'm going to grab my detail line from my annotation tab, and I'm just going to come out from the center of the wall, and then I'm going to go ahead and come out from the center of the front wall, and I'm just going to measure the distance. This way I can see how far over do I need to move this entire unit over so that this centers up to be centered on that door. It looks like that's going to be 3.5 inches. So I'm just going to hold down my control, select these walls, grab my move tool, and then just move this over 3.5 inches. So now the center of this wall, if I come back and find center, which is here, should line up perfectly with the center of the door, which it seems like it does. So now that that's set up in the correct position, I can now start putting the footer underneath of this wall. But before I continue, I'm going to go take a look at this in 3D to see that I now have a foundation wall coming out from my house that looks like it's centered up on that door. So I'm going to go back to a layer. I'm going to go to my bottom of footer layer, and I can start putting my footer underneath of that foundation wall. So I'll come over here and grab my footer from my footer layer, and it's going to go from bottom of footer up to bottom of foundation for fireplace. And at this point I'm just going to make sure it's wall center line, and I'm going to draw directly underneath of my foundation, and that should be set. I'm going to take a look at this in 3D. And you can now see that I have a foundation or a footer underneath of my foundation wall. Now I'm ready to go ahead and put my concrete cap on top of this. So I'm going to go to the TO foundation layer, and then I'm going to go ahead and grab my floor tool. And the floor that I want to use is going to be my concrete floor. And I don't need insulation with it, so I just need to have a standard concrete floor, which I don't think I have yet, because the only one I had in here was, actually no, there's one, concrete floor. I'm going to take a look, make sure it's a 4-inch concrete slab, which is a 4-inch concrete slab. Always good to double check those. And now I'm going to go ahead and just basically trace out the concrete slab directly on top of the foundation wall. And now I'm going to move it out because I want to have an overhang of approximately 1.5 inches on all sides, because that's what the band, when you pour my concrete, would be set to. It's going to be 1.5 inches away from the foundation wall. So here this is going to be 6.5 coming out, and then I'll pull this out, so this sits out at 1.5 inches as well. So now that I have that set up, it's going to sit out 1.5 inches, and it's going to be 0 to the layer. And always say no. Let's go back and see if it's sitting down in. Yep, looks like it's sitting down inside, so I want to take this and move this up 4 inches. So I make sure that this is sitting on top of that concrete slab, or sitting on top of that foundation wall. If I turn and look at it, you can see that that concrete slab is now sitting on top of the foundation, and I have a footer underneath and a step up into the house. So that would be a quick run through of a concrete porch for an entryway.